I look upon this as being a very substantial contribution to this continuing debate on this very perplexing but essential subject to be continuously watched here in the United States of America, and that the next Congress will take it up, and I will think that we will have laid a foundation for the future work of the next president and the next Congress, an important foundation. I wish we'd had more debate, but I'm not going to get into the politics of what happened. It's clear to all. But I will say that the brief period that we were on the bill, for example, I did not hear any really substantial debate contesting the fundamental question, is there adequate science to support the action by the Congress of the United States and then hopefully the President of the United States to address this issue? That seems to me to be put aside now, and I think we can deduce from this limited debate that we've had that each and every member of this chamber is genuinely concerned to some degree about the effects of the erratic changes in our climate and our weather, the droughts, the floods, the tornadoes, and these other unexplainable variations in the historical, I repeat, the historical benchmarks for these weather occurrences. So we're moving forward. That was a very important building stone. And this morning, the chairman and Senator from Connecticut, and indeed the Senator from Massachusetts, Mr. Kerry, the four of us joined to introduce two very fine, distinguished, retired four-star officers, one a general, one an admiral. They are a part of a team of 11 members, and I ask unanimous consent at this time I may be put into the record the names of all the members of the advisory board, military advisory board, to the Center for Naval Analysis, a national and internationally recognized organization which deals in a non-political way on issues, and they put together a very comprehensive report about the security, the national security implications from global climate change.
Will be added.
And I'd like to read from first the statement, and I'm going to put the full statement in the record here, of General Sullivan. General Sullivan, I think he said 50-year career, one way or another, on active duty or continuously working for the United States Army. I've known him a long time. Remember him many times coming testify before the Senate Armed Services Committee in his capacity as the Chief of Staff of the Army. He stated as following: having said this, I admit I came to the advisory board as a skeptic, and I'm not sure of some of the others might have felt similarly. After we listened to the leaders of the scientific, business, and governmental communities, both I and my colleagues came to agree that global climate change is and will be a significant threat to our national security. The potential destabilizing impacts of global climate change include reduced access to fresh water, impaired food production, health issues, especially from vector and foodborne diseases, and land loss, flooding, and on it goes, and the displacement of major portions of populations. And overall, we view these phenomena as related to failed states, growth of terrorism, mass migrations, and greater regional and interregional instability. There is a totally pure, non-political assessment of this problem. How I wish that we'd had the opportunity to have had further debate, at which time we could have brought forth other testimony of members of this panel and addressed the security issues. Those were the issues that drew me, this humble senator, to participate and devote basically a year of my career with my good friend from Connecticut, both of us members of the Armed Services Committee, It's because of the national security implications. I'd like to read a bit from the testimony of Admiral Joe Lopez. Now, I've known Joe Lopez ever since he was a Navy captain, when I was the Secretary of the Navy, and he had a remarkable career. He stated as follows: national security involves much more than just military strength. National security is affected by political, military, cultural, and economic elements. These elements overlap to one degree or another, and every major issue in the international arena contains all of them. And climate change has an impact on each of them. This will be particularly more pronounced in the world's most volatile regions, where environmental and natural resource challenges have added greatly to the existing political, economic, and cultural tensions. These instabilities that already exist will create a fertile ground for extremism, and these instabilities are likely to be exacerbated by global climate changes. Again, there's no politics in this. It is a clear statement from a man who's devoted over 40 years of his life to military service for our country. And there are 9 others that participated in this panel. So, Mr. President, there again, we've laid another building block, bringing to the attention of the American people their own security here at home, their own armed services, men and women of our armed services who are called upon to address these problems now and in the coming years. I have no basis, and I will not state that the tragic weather change that hit Burma and has taken tens upon tens upon tens of thousands of lives. I'm not going to put it in a category now of global climate change, but I do point out, at this very moment, we still have ships and aircraft and men and women of the United States Armed Forces offshore, ready to move in with food and supplies and other things. Our country, almost alone, is the one to which the world turns when there's some sort of a crisis. And it is clear from the statements of these 2 professionals, many of those crises can be generated by these erratic climate changes. Mr. President, I want to yield the floor at this moment to my other colleagues, but I would like to ask unanimous consent to put in a series of recognitions that the 3 of us want to state with regard to our staffs and to a number of organizations that have come forward. I mean, foremost among them, the Pew Center. That was the one that provided us with magnificent books on this subject. And many others all across America that came forward to participate in what we had hoped to be a very extensive debate on this issue. Nevertheless, they have laid a foundation, and they will continue to lay a foundation upon which to build and build and build until we finally come to grips with a framework of the solutions as to how this nation is going to lead and deal with the inevitable consequences of these climate changes. I yield the floor.